Good morning, Coalition of Concerned Republicans. It is Thursday morning, August the 25th, and the Lake County Board of County Commission meeting is going on as we speak. Um, Chuck and I talk about this quite a bit. It's kind of inconvenient that we broadcast at times that prevent us from going to the Board of County Commissioners meetings. We'd like to do that, and maybe Chuck and I will work on re scheduling to see if we can be a little more. Of course, we could broadcast from there, but rather than get into the weeds on that, it's just really interesting because on the agenda today at the Lake County Board of County Commissioners meeting is a planning and zoning amendment request that would expand an Islamic center off of Johns Lake Road down in the Clermont area. And there's been quite a bit of public consternation about this land use amendment. And Chuck and I are going to talk about that today. So, welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. My name is Mike Levine. My friend Chuck Benoit is here with me today. And we're going to talk about this Islamic Center. We're going to walk through the whole thing for you. So, Chuck, why don't you come on and join the conversation?
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Chuck. So, how about a little intro from you, Chuck?
Okay, well, Islamic centers, Islam itself, it's uncomfortable for a lot of reasons. I oftentimes go back and talk about the first war that the new America fought after the War for Independence, and it was the Barbary Pirates War, which was against Islam, who were attacking our ships and etc. It's where the Marines got their nickname, the Leathernecks, because even back then, Islam just had this propensity to cut people's heads off. Our Marines wore leather collars to help prevent that as they fought Islam from the very beginnings of our nation. And I would also submit that first of all, Islam is not a religion and is not guaranteed freedom to be freedom to exist here in America. That said, that's my opinion, and my strong feeling is that if we really, really want to put an end to the fear that Islam brings to our nation, it's probably going to have to be done on a national basis. But we have a rezoning here, and it's sitting right here in our own community, and we have to deal with it.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to comment on your comment, Chuck. And that is, for us to say that Islam is not a religion is easy for us to say. But how do we prove it? How do we support the premise? And I'm not asking you to answer the question now, but, because I don't think we could get through it. But that's really the big deal. We can say whatever we want, but that doesn't necessarily hold up in court. It doesn't necessarily make it through the legislative process or the constitutional amendment process or whatever needs to be done. But I'm just going to put my little bow around it by saying that I personally believe that the Islamic premise that Islamists are instructed to kill the infidel is real. I believe that's real. And I believe that that is happening in the world today. And I believe it's happening in America today. And I believe that that creating Islamic centers puts the American public at risk. I believe that. So the question becomes, how do we protect ourselves against it? And then we'll get into this land use amendment here, Chuck, and talk about that. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, I guess that works. And again, there are so many stories about these Islamic centers being used for munitions depots, and that there's all kinds of munitions ready for major conflicts in certain areas. You know, Islam uses fear. Fear is the deal that they use to prosper their religion. You know, a fear of death. If you don't submit, you die. And it's, you know, it's even what they use to send all these Muslims out from their own countries for fear of their own lives. They go into other countries and then begin to Islamify those countries. Yeah, you have to prove, I guess, that they are actually preparing themselves for some sort of conflict in our own nation. And
Let me just say, Chuck, real quick, that honor killings are illegal in the United States of America.
yes, they are.
Okay. So if you honor kill a family member in America, you need to go to prison for murder, right?
Yep.
That is intentional, taking life. You know, mutilating the genitalia of your wives and daughters, or, you know, is, I guess, illegal in the United States of America. You know, you get into the whole gender transition stuff, but certainly you can't uh, unwillingly do that to your children and your spouse. So that's a problem. So this is another, and go, you know, you can lump all that into Sharia law, Chuck, right?
Yes, you
So the
can.
question here becomes, I think whether we do it today or another day, we'll kind of work through that. But does banning Sharia law in the United States or even in the state of Florida, Chuck, get the job done on the de-Islamification of Florida, let's just say? Because I'd like to keep this into the context of Florida. I think we need to be able to do something about it. And I just want to say that I believe that Attorney General James Othmeyer needs to get involved here, because these commissioners should not be faced with these things every day. These are not a local issue necessarily. While the land use can, you know, with the state of Florida, of course, you know, reaching its long arm into land use and local communities, I believe that this Islam situation needs to be dealt with, certainly at the state level and preferably at the federal level. But I would like to start at the state level for many reasons that we can discuss as we go through. So our plan here, Chuck, as before we came on air, was to kind of run through this land use application. Represented, the Islamic Center of Clermont is represented by Jimmy Crawford. If you can see the applicant there on the cover of the report. And Jimmy Crawford is the go-to land use guy in Lake County for sure. This is, you know, I could give you some background on real estate, but there was a guy named Steve Ritchie a long time ago, and he was the king of getting land use amendments approved by the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. And back in the old days, Jimmy Crawford worked for Steve Ritchie. And so Crawford's been at this for a long time, and he was counseled and trained by the best. And he arguably is the best today, although I've seen some pretty impressive attorneys argue land use of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners over the last several years. But Crawford is certainly right there at the top of the pile as the most respected land use attorneys in the area. So they've got great, they knew that, of course, when they hired him. That's why people hire Jimmy Crawford, because they know that he's the top gun on land use. And here he is. He's the applicant in this case on behalf of the Islamic Center of Clermont, Chuck. So that kind of takes care of that piece of it. Let's try to do this pretty quickly, Chuck, and get to, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to give away the punchline, but let's just scroll through this and see if we can give the audience kind of an overview of what this rezoning staff report says, Chuck. Can we scroll through a little bit?
Okay, well, yeah, we start out with rezoning staff report, Office of Planning and Zoning. The public hearing on August 5th, or was on August 5th, and There's also a Board of County Commissioners hearing on September 1. We don't need to go through this project numbers. It's about the Islamic Center of Clermont Incorporated. They want to rezone approximately 3.69 plus minus acres from agriculture, and I think that's an issue that you want to discuss, to community facility district.
Yeah.
So it's been approved, and
Right.
at least the city is
Well, and
happy with it.
staff recommends approval.
Right,
That's the takeaway here.
right.
Okay. So again, I've heard the county commissioners, there's a big thing going on in Lake County right now, just about the conversion of agricultural land to other uses and the diminishing of inventory of agricultural land. So if you're a county commissioner today, you could look at this application and just say, hey, we want to preserve agricultural land, and you're asking to transition agricultural land as it is on the comprehensive land use map today to community facility district. And, we are preserving agricultural land here, and we're not interested in doing that. So I'm a no vote. That could be a very simple argument from a commissioner if they chose to take that position, Chuck. Let's move on.
There we go. Well, we have a couple of tables here that kind of maybe spread it, talk about it in a simple to understand format. We're talking about adjacent properties. To the north of the property is single family residence. To the south is vacant residential with agriculture exemptions. That's for timber. To the east
Mhm.
is the single family residence again. And to the west is the original Islamic Center, their place of worship.
Right. So
And
it's to be noted that the owner, the applicant, the applicant is Crawford, the lawyer, on behalf of the Islamic Center, and the Islamic Center is the owner, and they own the adjacent parcel. So what we're doing now is combining two parcels of land into a larger parcel so that they can expand their Islamic Center, Chuck.
there we
That's
go.
what
So
we're doing
then
here.
table number 2 is existing and proposed. So they want the existing agriculture district. Let's see. Oh, and I think the main thing on this one here is that they want the height, the maximum building height, to move from 40 feet to 50 feet. Now, 50-foot height restriction as opposed to a 40-foot. Big deal. You had a lot to say about that, Mike.
Yeah, that is a big deal, right? I mean, when you get into these mixed use developments and things like that, height is a lot, right? I mean, how many stories can you build there? Because additional stories in a office building or in a multifamily building equals more units. So, we can only speculate, I guess, as to what the Islamic Center of Clermont would do with the extra 10 feet. And keep in mind, they're agriculture today, so they don't have a 50-foot height restriction. Basically, CFD land use has a 40-foot height restriction, but they want to bump it to 50 feet. So the question becomes, why do they need an extra 10 feet for a community facility district parcel, right? So that would be something if I was a commissioner and I wanted to find a reason to vote against this, I would challenge the height amendment, Chuck.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, obviously they have these call to worship things. I don't know really what all that means, but obviously they have a dome. Who knows what else why else they would want that height restriction changed. And then we get into whether or not there's any conflicts, and other than those needs, the need to change those height restrictions, etc., and the agricultural situation, there really isn't a lot of restrictions. And as you mentioned, most of the government officials that are looking at this are saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Well, I don't know that, Chuck. We don't know what the commissioners think yet.
We don't know right.
But
That's true.
well, the truth is, though, the commissioners were present. The commissioners are always present at these planning and zoning meetings. So that may not be true. Okay, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they decide to do. But I'm guessing, I am speculating that the commission is not opposed to this, and I think that they're just going to look at this. It's my expectation that they will just look at this as a land use thing, right? And if it was some other type of a community facility, would they pass it? And if the answer to that question is yes, then they'll pass this, Chuck.
Yeah, I think, as we mentioned earlier before the show, if this was a Christian church, there probably wouldn't be any concerns at
No
all.
debate, right?
And
And if that's
so
true,
what we're really
if that's
dealing with,
true, then the Islamic organization, could argue that you're discriminating against them.
yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, our government hasn't really taken, in my estimation, again, the appropriate position on Islam. Islam is diametrically opposed to every aspect of the moral fiber of our nation. There's nothing about Islam that should be allowed in our nation. And we're not really simply talking about religion, because there are other religions out there that are totally fine. I mean, in regard to natural law and how they interact with our country. Islam, in and of itself, is a governmental structure hidden inside a religious structure. So the religion is really far more of a facade than what it, for what it actually is. And if we don't address that nationally, I mean, certainly you're suggesting that maybe we can address it at a state level, and we very well may. But
We
the
can.
reality is, it is a national issue and should have been addressed a long time ago. And who knows if we'll ever be able
But
to
we
address
should
it.
address it in Florida right now.
Now is the time.
Now is the time. And I hereby call on our Attorney General. We need to write to Chuck. We need to write to the Attorney General and tell him that our local elected officials need state support in this argument
Right.
so that they don't have to stick themselves out on a limb and make this argument by themselves, which they should do. But they should also recruit the assistance of the Attorney General of the state of Florida to get involved and to give them guidance, Chuck.
Yeah.
That's what these state officers, the cabinet members, that's what they should be doing. They should be giving these local elected officials guidance on these issues. This is critically important. This is a constitutional issue, Chuck. So I want to make one other point about Islam, Chuck. And,
Sure.
when you have a religion that says comply or die, that is, and that is the point of demarcation. That you cannot do that. You can, in the United States of America, you can't tell people either adopt my religion or die. That is not consistent with our United States Constitution, in my opinion, Chuck.
Yeah, which of course has been my point all along. I mean, it is inconsistent, and it is an attack on our Constitution and our country, having nothing to do with whether or not they can add some land to a mosque.
Right. So, what you got on the screen now, Chuck?
So I just basically threw up the proposed here. This is Johns Lake Road here. This is Hancock Road up through here. And this is the existing facility. They have Islamic Center right here. And what they're
Be clear about
proposing.
that, Chuck.
I'm sorry?
In the purple there has the community facility district zoning now, or land use now. And the outline is the subject property that they're trying to change the land use from agricultural to CFD. That's what we're looking at. Agreed?
Yeah, well, this is what they want to change right here.
This is what's existing now, Chuck. If I think
This
you'll
is what they,
find,
okay, let's go back this way here.
see,
Uh, this is,
oh, okay, there you go.
yeah,
There's a subject property there, right? That is the property. The outline is what's requesting the land use change right there. Agreed or not?
well, you know something, I guess I had it backwards. I thought that this
Yeah.
was what was there and what is
No,
theirs. You know,
no.
I've been through that area. I don't believe that there's a mosque right here. But
Maybe I'm wrong.
this is
So read the
zoning,
heading, right? Zoning
zone
district
district
map,
map, current zoning.
current
Okay,
zoning.
so this is current CFD, right?
Which one? The purple one
The
or the one
purple,
that's not?
the purple.
That's what I'm thinking. That's CFD now.
Okay,
And again, if you scroll down to the next chart there, it'll show you what the proposed amendment results in. There you go. So that would be the result of the amendment if it's approved, that it would
okay.
add the parcel on the, I guess, I don't know, I guess that's south, right?
Yeah,
Um,
this is south of Johns Lake Road.
okay, great. So that, long story short, this is, if the amendment's approved, then they're going to add the 3.69 acres to the other 4 and change, and they're going to get, somewhere just a little bit less than 8 acres there. And as you scroll through the rest of this thing, you'll find those, it'll show what's on the property now. It's kind of a rough sketch. I'm surprised they didn't come in with a more professional drawing, but so there you go. So that's just some pictures. Is this right here, Chuck, what you got, is they're telling you what's on the, well, so this goes back to your point, because this is what's actually on the property now. And this is on the property that is requesting the change, right? So there's a house there now. You see that, right? And then in the yellow, that is a proposed new building that's 4,000 square feet, Chuck.
Yeah.
And since you have, you can just confirm by reading that chart that what I'm telling you is correct, right?
Yeah, this is the Future Worship Center right here. This
Yeah,
is
4,000 square feet.
this is an existing building, and I think this is also, I guess, a house.
Right.
Existing
So there's a
building.
house on it now. So they're going to,
Now,
that stays. According to the ordinance that we're going to get to here in a minute, that house stays and they just use it. They incorporate it into their plan.
right. And over on this side here is this future new worship hall in through
Right.
here. So this is
Right.
all
Right.
new as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right.
So-
There you go. So anything in particular there, Chuck, that you see that we should discuss? Or
Well,
is that a pretty good overview of what the proposed amendment would do?
That's pretty much it right there. And as we move on through our time, I know we never seem to feel like we have enough time. We did want to talk about this open petition that's going on right now. Right,
Okay.
when I pulled this up this morning, I don't know if there's going to be any change in the numbers, but yeah, there
Where
we
did you
go.
find the petition, Chuck?
Sorry.
Where did you find the petition?
I just went online and looked for community concerns regarding the Islamic expansion, and it came right on up. And as I
All right.
mentioned earlier, there were 1,391 signatures. I just refreshed the page, and it's up to 1,397 signatures. Stop further expansion of the Islamic Center of Clermont through rezoning. And you can basically fill out your name, address, and move through that down here. If I know it's hard to read, but again, reasoning, I'll do my best to get through this. As a concerned resident, I'm worried that the proposed community facility district rezoning of a 3.8 acre residential parcel in order to expand a 4.43 acre worship center could permanently change the character of our neighborhood by establishing a commercial scale facility within the residential neighborhood. And I'm just going to stop there and again mention the 50-foot restriction versus the 40-foot restriction. That would definitely change change the community. Now, as we discussed earlier, a lot of these concerns the city's looked at, a number of organizations have looked at this, and they don't agree with many of the concerns that are noted here. I just go right back to the idea that Islam is not a comfortable fit for America, and any community that all of a sudden has to be forced to deal with Islam, in my estimation, feels threatened, and that's just an issue that is real, and it's natural, because when you deal with natural law and you're faced with something that violates natural law, you are definitely threatened. So
Long story short, Chuck, 1,391 signatures. That's a pretty hefty list. And, I mean, if you're a commissioner, you say, well, I got elected to serve the constituents in my district or in Lake County. And the citizens of Lake County have a pretty serious problem with this. So maybe I should not approve it. I mean, I'm not sure if that's, I mean, is that going to prevent, Jimmy Crawford from suing the county? I don't know. But it's a logical argument to me.
Yeah, and again, if you're not willing to acknowledge the conflict between Islam and our Constitution, then there isn't
Again, this is
anything to
where
do.
the Attorney General of the state of Florida and maybe certainly the legislature needs to get involved here. And just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, that when our supervisor of elections, Alan Hayes, was a senator, he proposed legislation in the Florida Senate that would ban Sharia law from the state of Florida. This is a long time ago. I want to say in 2014, 2016, somewhere around there. And I'm pretty sure the Florida legislature killed it, right? But this is not new. We've been dealing with this, or we've been aware of this for a very long time. And just Alan Hayes' credit, he filed a ban on Sharia law in Florida a long time ago. And we should have gotten it done then. If it was passed then we might have a different take on this, Chuck.
Yeah, different perspective for sure.
Mhm.
Well, again, what we're talking about here is the local community, and when I say local community, I'm not simply talking about the neighboring land that's there. I think all of Lake County is opposed to the expansion of Islam in any way, shape, or form in any place, not just in our community or our counties, but in our state and our nation. So Lake County is not comfortable with Islam, and our county officials should know that and act accordingly.
And don't forget, Chuck, there's already a mosque on Highway 27 just
Yeah.
north of Clermont.
Yeah, there's plenty of Muslim interaction here in Lake County, and probably more than we want already. We are pretty much at the end of our time. Mike, would you like to give us a final?
Well, I'd just say, Chuck, that we are this world, this is real time, ladies and gentlemen. We're facing it. We're in it. I mean, what an interesting time to be alive if you can look at it from your soul's point of view. And, we're in Iran. Iran, certainly, the largest state sponsor of terror in the world, supporting Islam. You can see that they're willing in Iran, they're willing to allow the United States to literally level their country. And that's okay with them as long as they survive. So that is the commitment that Islam has to survival. We know historically that Islamic martyrs put on suicide vests and blow themselves up in cafes around the world in order for them, to go to, wherever they call that, Allah, right? And to become martyrs for their faith. And we see it in the United States as well. I just saw a post today that said the guy that shot and killed 13 people at the Florida naval base up in Pensacola is actually, I believe, going to be the military in a military hearing are going to put him to death after over 10 years ago that happened. So you can see that Islam is willing to walk out their faith by killing infidels in the United States of America. So that's what we're facing. And I would like to see this discussion elevated to the highest courts. And that's just where I'm at, Chuck. I don't want our local governments to have to go out on a limb, which they should and they must, but they should also get the support of the state and ultimately the federal government on this issue, Chuck. That's my close.
Yes, and I would suggest the legislature far quicker than the judicial. Again, thank you, Mike Levine, and thank you all for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at Restore Our Rep 76. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic ROAR. Please like and share the program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.